Thank you all for being here. I'm Chris McCormick. I'm a partner with the law firm of Pullman Comley here in Bridgeport. And it's also my privilege to serve as the president of the Housatonic Community College Foundation. First of all, I'm glad to see all of you here. Second of all, I'm glad you didn't have to swim. So the weather, who knows what the weather will be, you may have to swim home. We'll find out. I'm very pleased to join you here today to help introduce the American Manufacturing Hall of Fame. In just a few moments, we'll announce the inaugural inductees of the Hall. But first, I want to talk briefly about the mission of the Housatonic Community College Foundation. Many potential students who want to further their education just can't afford it. It's difficult for these individuals to be viable job candidates. They don't have the basic skills needed to compete. They're passed over for jobs. They can't reach their potential. And that's not just a loss for them. It's a loss for our economy and our community as well. The foundation exists to give these students the opportunity to pursue their educational goals. This opportunity comes in the form of full and partial scholarships, funding for textbooks, and funding for non-credit coursework. And the foundation also supports programs of the college. All of this support helps students gain the knowledge and skills that make them attractive to employers. As a foundation, we're dedicated to the success of the school and its programs. And with the opening of the college's advanced manufacturing program, that means we're increasing our focus on manufacturing. I look forward to seeing the growth of manufacturing in the near future, and I'm glad our foundation is taking part in it. Now, I'd like to introduce someone who has had a huge impact on the school during her years of leadership, including bringing the manufacturing program to the college and overseeing the extremely significant expansion of Lafayette Hall, which will be completed next year. The president of Housatonic Community College, Anita Glenetsky.
Well, thank you, Chris. It is my pleasure to be here today and help launch this new endeavor of Housatonic Community College Foundation. But first, I'd like to recognize some friends in our audience. Senator Andres Ayala of the 23rd District is here and will speak momentarily. Representative Tony Wang of the 134th District is here and has also agreed to speak. Matt LeBeau of U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal's office is here today, as is Evan Johnson from U.S. Senator Chris Murphy's office is with us here this morning. And Aaron Pringle of Congressman Jem Himes' office is also here and joining us. So I thank each of them for being here today. I would also like to welcome Janet Prislow and Tom Walsh, both Bloom Shapiro partners. Bloom Shapiro is the sponsor of our event today and of the induction ceremony that will take place in October, and is a close friend of the college and the foundation. Chris McCormick just mentioned opportunity, and I think that's an excellent way of looking at the advanced manufacturing program here at HCC. A lot of people worked very hard with the state and representing the state to get the program here at HCC when there were many colleges being considered. Once awarded the funding to begin our manufacturing program, a tremendous effort was made by many people to establish a program that would effectively train our students to receive their certificates, walk out HCC's door, and immediately step into manufacturing jobs with a good salary and a chance for a career in manufacturing. But that is only half of the story, because once established, the program has had to adapt to the needs of manufacturers, the needs of our students, and the requirements of the state. As we stand here looking forward to the start of our third year in September, I'd like to reflect on the first 2 years of the program. First, I would like to thank Senator Ayala and Representative Wang, who stood up for their constituents and communicated with their colleagues within their respective chambers to demonstrate that HCC was a viable candidate for the funding for one of the 3 programs being established in the state of Connecticut. Second, I would like to thank the Advanced Manufacturing Programs Advisory Board. This group of individuals worked tirelessly to make sure our coursework was in line with what was needed and made many recommendations to continue to improve the program. And most important, the staff, the director, Mike Guger, the faculty, who worked very hard to deliver real-world results, and I thank them for that. Last but not least, I thank the foundation for everything it has done for the college and for this program. They have worked many hours, raised many dollars to help grow and improve our program and offer our students this opportunity. And here again is that word, opportunity. Let's take a look at the results of the first 2 years of the program measured against expectations. In the 2-year period ending this past May, 56 day and 38 evening students participated in the program. Of these, 87% completed the coursework for both certificates, exceeding our goal of 85%. The reason that we have these courses in place, of course, is for our students to obtain work in manufacturing. And of these graduates, 76% have been placed in full-time jobs. Our stated goal was 72%. In addition, through our outreach department, 48 students have taken non-credit specialized courses. These courses to help them to improve in their current job or to attain that first job in manufacturing to increase their credentials for hire. And here is more real-world news. The expected starting salary for a student who has completed both of our certificate programs is between $32,000 and $45,000 per year. Real-world results, real-world success. As you may know, I will be retiring next month, and I'll take this last opportunity at this mic to thank all of you for the opportunities that I have had. Because working with each and every one of you, to stand with you in the community, to join you in improving our lives by improving the lives of the ones we serve, our students, our community. For that, I thank you.
Thank you, Anita. We wish you, I know I speak on behalf of the foundation and the entire college community, wishing you the absolute best in your retirement. We will now hear from Senator Ayala. Senator?
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody here to the great city of Bridgeport, being that Housatonic Community College is really a big part of the community that I serve, the district that I'm in. So I want to thank you all for joining us. And first and foremost, I want to thank President Glenicki. Through her tenure here, she has led Housatonic Community College to greatness. Tremendous programming done here at the university. A great many students that have come through here and have succeeded and have prospered in life because of the work that you've led here at the college. So we thank you for all of your efforts, and we wish you a great retirement. I'm sure that there are going to be many other things, different chapters in this book, so I know that that book is not closed. So thank you for your leadership and all you've done here in the city of Bridgeport and the great state of Connecticut. Manufacturing, you know, whenever I go through the district and I'm talking to constituents, everybody talks about the great, rich history of manufacturing in the city of Bridgeport. And you can't have one without the other. Everybody knows it, everybody understands it, and that's what made Bridgeport great. And now we are at the point right now where we're looking to make the transition, and we're going to see what else is going to be in store for the city of Bridgeport and the state of Connecticut and our nation. And it comes right precisely with this program that is here at Housatonic, high precision manufacturing. That's the wave of the future, and I'm glad that Housatonic Community College is at the forefront of it. In having conversations with our superintendent of our technical schools, I know that they're already making plans to ensure that here at our own local Bullard Havens Technical Vocational School, that they're going to be expanding on the program. When people talk about good paying jobs, this is the next wave. This is what we're talking about. This is so meaningful for all of us. Not everyone is intended to go to college or university. We need to make sure that we provide the different opportunities for people to be successful at life and do the things that they can do, whether it's a trade, whether it's a vocation, anything that might inspire our youth to be successful. And I'm glad that at the state senate, at the state legislature, working with all of our colleagues up there, we all get it, we understand it. And I think here in Connecticut, we're a little bit of a rare breed when we work together at the Capitol, working on programs that make sense. And it's not Democratic ideas and not Republican ideas. They're ideas that just make sense for the state of Connecticut. And I'm proud that my colleague is here from the State House, who we serve together. And we're going to continue to do these kinds of things because we know that this is the next wave. And I'm also really, really proud to say that this Hall of Fame that we're looking to do and going to create here in the city of Bridgeport talks about ensuring that history is maintained, that people know and understand that having that label of Made in America still means something. And we're going to continue that rich tradition. And for everyone who has participated in the various meetings and strategic planning of this, thank you for all of your efforts. And these are the things that are going to continue to make the United States of America the great country that it is, the state of Connecticut a leader in its field, and we want you all to continue being part of all of the great things that are happening here at Housatonic in the state of Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And Representative Tony Wong is also with us. Representative?
Well, it's always a treat to follow Senator Ayala, and I think I begin this premise by saying that what we did was truly a bipartisan effort where there was a unified approach that jobs and the economy is of the first order. Nothing else matters. Now I'm privileged to be here because when we're talking about improving jobs and the economy, this is why we're here. We're here because it's important. Why is it important? Because the enrichment of having a vibrant economy and a flurry of jobs in our economy helps because it enriches people's lives. It enriches people's lives to be able to have a sense of self-empowerment, a sense of pride in what they do, but also economic independence. And to be here at Housatonic and to see the great work that the foundation does and our corporate partners and the advanced manufacturing, what does it all mean? What does it all mean? It means the fact that we can trace back to our great history in this state, the great history that innovated, that created such a synergy that made this state great. I think it's important for us to re-educate, to instill that sense of pride, to focus on STEM education, to realize that this state was great because we had the own means. We had our own means to create our future. We're not dependent on others. I think when we have, Covidian and Lacey and organizations that are right in this area that are contributing, we don't do enough to promote them. They need to know that we care deeply about their success and that we're actively engaged in this. This is what this program's all about. This is what the Hall of Fame is all about, This is what Housatonic and the Advanced Manufacturing Education Center is all about. It is the fact for all the people that are covering this to tell the people in our community, to give them hope, to recognize that if you've been affected by the change in labor market, that you need to retrain your skills, that you can come to Housatonic, that you can build a new future, you can control your own destiny. That is fabulous. We have in our city, in our region, the workplace, which works very closely with Housatonic to be able to give people the feeling of having a job. It's not just dollars and cents. And I repeat it over and over again. When you talk to people about the empowerment of making a living, earning their keep, being able to provide, and in return give back to our state, those are feelings that are indescribable. But when you talk to people, when you sense their success, when you sense their pride, it allows them to inspire others. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I think the idea of bringing back and recognize the historical presence of manufacturing excellence in our state and combining it with a much brighter future that we're going to have is a fantastic blend. So for me, I'm committed to doing everything I can to spread the message that we are going to come back, and we're going to come back better than ever. But we need to do it with people supporting it. We need to have excellent legislators like Senator Ayala, and throughout the entire state, throughout the entire country, and recognizing that we can compete in a global basis in manufacturing. So I appreciate all of you here. I want to thank Mr. Ratzenberg for being here and bringing some spotlight to this. At the end of the day, it takes a village, it takes a city, and we're going to make it happen. Thank you.
So we'll now move on to the inductees, the inaugural inductees for the Hall of Fame. But first, let me speak briefly about how we got to where we are today. You might ask, why would a foundation that supports a community college in Connecticut would embark on a task like this, starting a national Hall of Fame for manufacturing, especially when the college has only just completed its second year of the advanced manufacturing program? In September 2012, one of our board members mentioned in passing to Barbara Johnson, who's a past president of the foundation and at that time was the head of the foundation's Resource Development Committee, the one way to promote the new manufacturing center would be to create a local manufacturing Hall of Fame. Any of you who have worked with Barbara Johnson know if you give Barbara an idea and she digs into it, you need to stay out of her way. So of course and she did dig into it, and she went home and spoke to her husband Carl, who's a retired manufacturer himself and an avid amateur Bridgeport historian. By April of 2013, Barbara and Carl were convinced the idea had merit. They recruited 3 more members to found a steering committee. And by September of 2013, they were co-chairs of the committee, and more members had been strategically recruited. That month, Carl approached his old neighbor, John Ratzenberger, and asked if he would like to play a role in the hall. Now, John has deep roots in Bridgeport, and he's a big believer in American manufacturing. He agreed to come aboard. But he had a great idea of his own. We have a lot to celebrate in the manufacturing history of Bridgeport, but why not make it national in scope? Because so much of manufacturing has its roots right here in the Northeast and right here in Bridgeport. So they did. And John joined as inaugural chairman of the steering committee. Over the next several months, the steering committee created a research committee, a selection committee, 2 event committees, and a social media committee. You can't do anything without committees, right? To handle the task of putting together the inaugural induction ceremony. And finally, the selection committee chose the initial inductees we are announcing today. To be eligible for induction into the American Manufacturing Hall of Fame, the manufacturer's recognized contributions must have occurred during the years the company operated in the greater Bridgeport area, must have been a recognized leader in the field for a significant number of years prior to the induction, and must have demonstrated unquestionable manufacturing leadership and have had strong ties to the community. It is my honor as president of the foundation to announce the 2014 inaugural class of the American Manufacturing Hall of Fame. In alphabetical order, they are Bridgeport Machines, Bullard Machine Tool, Harvey Hubble, Sikorsky Aircraft, and Warner's. Congratulations to all the inductees. They will be inducted at a ceremony. They will be inducted at a ceremony right in this room on October 7th. Now, we're going to bring some people up here, and I'll be asking them some questions. Then we'll have opportunities for members of the audience, members of the press to ask questions. When we open the proceedings to questions, feel free to stand up and I can recognize you. We have microphones at the corners here. If at this time I'd like to ask John, Anita, Ken, and Dan to come up to the stage. Is Mr. Ratzenberger joining us? You gonna stand or sit? Okay. I'm going to start off with Mr. Ratzenberger. And it's always a great opportunity in a situation like this to be able to say, this is a man who needs no introduction, and then you get to introduce him. So I'm going to talk briefly about the things perhaps people don't know so much about Mr. Ratzenberger. First of all, I think as everybody knows, he was born in Bridgeport, proud son of the Park City. And everyone knows he's had a distinguished career as a performing artist. Less well known, perhaps, is that John developed packaging alternatives made from biodegradable and non-toxic recycled paper as a safe alternative to styrofoam, peanuts, and plastic bubble wrap. He has produced and hosted a cable channel called Made in America, which focused on, products made in America, and inspired other shows like Dirty Jobs and Deadliest Catch and Ice Road Truckers that celebrate the work ethic that built America's manufacturing strength. He's the co-author of a book called We've Got It Made in America, A Common Man's Salute to an Uncommon Country. Just as a brief aside on his distinguished performing career, it did begin here in Bridgeport at an improv comedy club called, I think this is one of the greatest names of an improv comedy club ever, Sal's Meat Market. He started out there while he was a student at SHU. So John, you've been a manufacturing advocate for a long time. Where do you see manufacturing in America today, and what role do you see for this American Manufacturing Hall of Fame?
Well, much like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and I always remind people when I go around the country speaking about this topic that everything we do every single day relies first on someone's ability to put a nut and a bolt together. And if we run out of people, which we are, to put those nuts and bolts together, then we're on certainly a downhill slide. And so that's why I go around the country promoting, especially school systems, reinstating shop classes for middle school kids. Because nobody in the history of humanity is, the people that have invented Leonardo da Vinci, Gutenberg, Copernicus, Ben Franklin, Edison, Steve Jobs, nobody waited until they were 18, 20 years old to go into what they went into. Thomas Edison didn't say, hey, I want to go to light bulb school. He started when he was this big because he explored things around him. Da Vinci grew up on a farm, illegitimate child. And again, Edison, he hung around a shipyard in Lake Erie, tinkering. So we have to reinstate the tinkering spirit in young children, then they become adults who innovate. Like Bullard, like Lacey. Every single industry started with one person inventing one thing, every single one of those people started off as a child. And that's, for me, that's one of the most important aspects of, we have to get the school systems to stop assuming that we're all going to become poets. Someone's got to lay the bricks. Did that answer the question at all?
I think so. Any questions for John? We'll have opportunities to ask questions later, too. Let me turn now to President Planitsky. Anita, the college recently made some changes to make the advanced manufacturing program even more competitive. Could you tell us what was done and why?
Okay, I'll start with what we did after the first year of the program. To be successful in a manufacturing career, the person needs very strong mathematical skills, but equally important is the ability to apply those skills, to think 3D, if you will, to take a flat drawing and say, well, what would it look like in 3 dimensions? So what Mike Guger, our director of the program, established is that each candidate for the program completes an interview to discuss why they want manufacturing, but also completes the testing in terms of math, 3D dimensioning. So can they take what is in the head and have the hands manipulate it? Because you need both skills as well as communication skills. And part of this testing also encouraged students who may have had any gaps. We do an intensive 3-week program with them, really an introduction to manufacturing. Because what's the goal? The goal is that every student who begins the program has the ability, the skill to finish the program. And what I'm so proud of in our second year, every student who began the second year of the program finished the second year of the program. So when I was sharing those statistics earlier, so much of that is because of the greater strength within the program. What we also did, working with our advisory committee, is made sure we built in more and more time on machine. Because again, that theoretical knowledge does need to come to the hands, so that as you are working with the simple to the most complex machinery, there must be a linkage between that which I know and can I do it. And combined with that, the increase in internships as a requirement of the program. But that's where our community stepped forward. The manufacturers who said, I will accept an intern. Because interns are great, but they're also work for the company. But the reward for the company is that they can work with one of our students, really assess them as they're doing their internship. And again, I'm very proud to say most of these students then were offered the full-time position after the program was completed. And what we did have to say to everyone is you can't hire them till they're done. Don't steal them partially through, because they are now ready for that beginning manufacturing career. But we also want the company and the student to realize that as the company grows and needs greater and greater skill, the student can return for even more education and training at the college. And with our advisory committee, we just finished the prototype of what will become a 3rd semester course with more intensive training in computerized numerical control called CNC, tool and die, so that as the manufacturing skills that are needed by our local companies increase, our students will be there increasing with them. So I think it's just been phenomenal work with our staff, with our advisory committee, and the support of the local community. And students are there because our HCC Foundation very aggressively sought scholarships to help students complete this program. That scholarship support is critical. Our foundation stepped to the plate. So I could go on, I'll stop there at this moment. Lots of wonderful changes.
Thank you, Anita. Any questions for Anita? Welcome to ask questions. Okay, let's turn to Ken Lisk. Ken, you're the president of Pep Lacey Manufacturing. You do some fairly sophisticated manufacturing right here on the east side of Bridgeport, and Ken's also the vice president of the foundation. But you're not just a local manufacturer. You have long ties to the community. You sit on boards of manufacturing associations, as well as the board of the Bridgeport Regional Business Council. Can you speak to what it means to local manufacturers like you to have the advanced manufacturing program here at Housatonic, not to mention similar programs at the area high schools?
Sure, Chris. I think to start to answer that question, we have to remember that America's love affair with manufacturing over the last several decades, let's say we're no longer in love. And a lot of skills just were not being developed. And now there's a resurgence in manufacturing. It's just from a GDP level, it's a full 1 point ahead of the entire rest of the economy. So, but it's advanced work. It's not your father's or your grandfather's manufacturing anymore. And having that center here, that advanced manufacturing center here, to allow us to get skilled people in the door that are ready to work, gives us a tremendous competitive advantage. And coming out of the program, there's 34 credits. And it's a step ladder. So you can, in a year, get a very good paying job that's stable, that we need. We have machines sitting, we meaning not just Lacey, but manufacturing in general, that need people that can run them. And having this center and the ability to bring people in and then to further grow them is a major boost in the arm that is absolutely needed. And it's coming at the right time. Our skilled workforce is aging. You're starting looking at tool makers that are up in the mid to upper 50s. And they're 58 years old is the average. And these are the craftsmen that are going to teach the next generation. So it's the exact right time, and we'll get that new generation in. We'll take that extra 1 point on the GDP and push it up, because the jobs are there. And this program and the ones that are at the other schools are going to drive that entry-level job that people can grow on. So, thank you.
Chris, just to interrupt, just notice the paintings on the wall, that should be the before picture.
It is.
Because when you have guidance counselors and teachers, when you talk to them about manufacturing or factory work, that's what they think about. You know, losing an arm or a leg or getting black lung disease. But as Anita referenced, the CNC machines, that's computer cutting. So they don't mill it anymore, they put it in a machine. You can eat off a factory floor now. And I think I probably did a couple of times, but back in my youth. But that's one of the it's the image, and people really aren't aware that it's not that anymore. Those are the before pictures. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And we want to add to this collection with the now pictures.
Right. That should be before, and then put the after pictures of what we have today. The clean jobs. Great. As a matter of fact, there was a welder, to start a welder, $80,000 a year. Can't find welders. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, all these paintings are a WPA project.
So we have a little bit of conflict of interest here at the college, because we have the art museum, of course, and a great art department and a commitment to art, and these are distinguished art. Mr. Lisk is constantly whining that we ought to take them down. But
can I make a point before you?
well, just let me finish this one.
Okay.
In the other room, which you'll have an opportunity, we have some exhibitors in the other room, there is one painting, and this is at least a step in the right direction, that shows a 1950 era Bridgeport brass, I think. Yep. And it's clean. It's relatively modern. 1950. It's relatively modern. But I mean, to your point, John, you know, I think I've seen some manufacturing facilities where I wouldn't be allowed to eat on the floor because they're clean rooms. And you have to wear booties and cover your hair and so forth. They need to protect the work from the workers. I mean, that's really what a lot of manufacturing is now. So, Ken, sorry.
I was going to say, I do tease about the painting, and it's become my shtick, but without this foundation, without all of this happening back in the height of the industrial era, we wouldn't have the opportunity to build on this today. So this was necessary. This is the foundation. Without this, we wouldn't be sitting here.
The Bridgeport Machine Company, in my travels doing my show Made in America, I go to over 300 manufacturing facilities all over the country, and many of them, at least half, are still using machines built here at Bridgeport 80 years ago, and they're still running like they're brand new. And in fact, any cutting machine now is referred to as a Bridgeport. It's like any tissue is referred to as Kleenex. Even though some other company's making it, cutting machines just say, well, you know, use the Bridgeport, even though it's some other company. But this was the standard. It was right here. It was Bridgeport machines.
You know, John, earlier you were talking, I just think there's a story that you told me earlier that I think would be very illustrative of what you were saying about welders. You met a gentleman that was going to hire welders in the airport.
Yeah, I was JFK flying somewhere. I fly too much. I realized that when I realized that I'm on a first name basis with the shoe shine guy in Dallas. Hey, John, how you doing? Hey, Tony. But I was at the airport. The fellow came up to me and thanked me for the work I've been doing in manufacturing and et cetera. And I've always say that manufacturing is to America what spinach is to Popeye. We make stuff, and we're the best in the world at it. But anyway, we're talking this and that, and I said, so where are you off to? He says, I'm off to Argentina. And I said, oh, vacation? He says, no, I'm going to hire welders. He owns this company that makes steam boilers.
Oh, okay.
Just outside of New York City. And he had jobs for 20 welders, can't find one. And companies poach welders. I'm sure people in this room know about that. They'll hang out, see where the welder goes after work, and go up to him and say, hey, how was it? But that is happening all over the country. You know, and I think part of it is, and I don't want to take up too much time, but part of it is because we used to be an agrarian society, and everybody knew how to do something, and that was brought to the political process. So you had people in the political process who knew how to make things, because they were either farmers or even though they were attorneys, they still knew about building things, fences, horses, taking care of horses. And now what we have is, I always said if you're going to run for office, a mayor, governor, president, or whatever, you should be able to assemble a coffee table from IKEA. If you can't do that, then what are you passing laws that affect me and my family for? You can't do something that simple, because at one time, everybody could do that. And we've now specialized, and we have to get back to that way of thinking, like be a Renaissance personality. It's nice to be the captain of the football team, but you should be able to read music as well. That's just sort of more well-rounded.
We started out with Ken. I see a hand.
Chris, also currently within the museum, there's an exhibit that's in the gallery right now, mounting Hall, the next building, about the history of manufacturing.
Just to make sure everybody heard that, that's Chris Carollo, who's the executive director of the foundation and the director of development for the college. Very valuable guy. But pointing out that the museum right now is having an exhibit. And by the way, if you haven't been to the museum, please take the opportunity while you're here. It's really a treasure. The museum is having an exhibit on the history of manufacturing in Bridgeport. Let's turn now to Dan Wisniewski. Dan, you're now co-chairing the steering committee for the Hall of Fame. And you and other members of the steering committee essentially created all the rules and regulations and really everything. You invented the Hall of Fame from scratch. Tell us about the methodology and really why the members of the committee, all of whom are volunteers, put all this effort into this enterprise.
Well, I can get into the methodology. We go in depth on that, but based on the conversation that we've had, what I really like to go is the last point that you made, which is why. Why do, I don't even know how many thousands of volunteer hours have gone into this at this point, but it's been tremendous. And I think really what it comes down to, something John touched about, what we're trying to do is we saw a need and we're trying to create jobs. That is the goal, is to create American jobs in manufacturing. We have the means to find the right people. This is a microcosm, right? So this is our own little petri dish right here, and in our own little lab, which is Housatonic Community College. So what we're doing is we're doing a grand experiment, and we are going to see what happens when we see a need, which is to create jobs, and then we see manufacturing, which has the capacity that desperately needs qualified people, and then we see the funding, and the foundation has the funding. And so we take those things, and we've got these tons of available workers, tons. All they need are the skills. So we get them the skills, we get them, and we educate them, we pay for it, and they walk out the door, and they have a job. That's what it's all about. Now, I just left GE after more than 15 years, and I'm not a manufacturer, I'm a communications guy. And I used to do big shows, produce big shows for Jeff Immelt and GE all over the world. And I sat in a lot of green rooms with Jeff and learned at his feet. And he used to say, you know, when costs, when in Asia, they can make something at 60% of what they make in the United States, 70%, I can't touch it. I can't bring back jobs. 80%. He would say in rooms like this, you know, to groups like this, if I could bring 3,000 American jobs back, I would. I can't. We will go out of business. But he said, and this is maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was with him in, I think, Kentucky or Louisiana, and he said, if we can get to 80, 85%, right, if we can match that cost, now we can start having a dialogue. Well, the numbers I heard last month were it's 90 to 95%. So the costs of making something in Asia, when you include shipping, when you include rising labor costs, when you include energy costs in Asia, we're around 90 to 95%. So now we can make it here. So this is why we need to do this. We are on the cusp of the next industrial revolution. The technology is here, the people are here, the capacity is here. We have a current economic condition that is being sort of propped up by financial institutions right now. It is not organic, and we have to get to that organic growth, and that's going to come from manufacturing. So that's why we're doing this. That's why we believe in.
Questions for Dan?
I think part of you answered part of the question that I had. I was going to ask what are some of the factors that we're seeing an increase in high precision manufacturing kind of coming back. And then furthermore, what I'd like to probably ask is, what else can we be doing as a state and as a country to encourage this even further? So I mean, any one of the panelists.
I'll take a shot at part of that anyway. I think people are coming around little by little, the general public, to realizing that there's an unintended consequence of having everything made in China. They go to the store, oh, you know, this T-shirt is $3 cheaper than the American-made T-shirt, so I'm going to save $3. That's what they think. Well, a lot of people do that, and they put out of business a T-shirt company somewhere. And Bridgeport's a perfect example. And all these companies thriving. Well, you put them out of business, those tax dollars aren't going into the city coffers anymore. Police department, fire department, the schools, the playgrounds, someone has to pay for all that. So you think you're getting a deal because you got $3 off on a T-shirt, it's actually costing you $10 more because those taxes are coming out of your pocket. And you put them out of business. And I think people are starting to realize that if I support an American company, those taxes come back into my city, my state, and we all rise to the same tide. You know, but I think I see that around the country. People are just starting to get that. But that's one of the things that we could also give manufacturers a tax break.
So, you know, and to that point, John, I think, you know, when you read the paper, when you you see how manufacturing is covered, or any really issue is covered, there's this huge desire to simplify it, put it in a little box. So here's what really has to happen, because when I say this is the start of the next industrial revolution, I mean it. And when you do a revolution, you got to really look at the parts and dissect them. So the tax issues, okay? Let me give you a great example about what John is talking about. A lot of small manufacturers are set up as legal entities as S corporations. A lot of legislation gets passed around manufacturing that does not address S corporations. It's set up for other corporations. So that means that whatever tax benefit is going to manufacturing, all those small companies that are set up as S corporations get nothing. They get none of that benefit. So that's one key thing. The second thing, you asked about what the state can do. Infrastructure, right? It's finally getting some press. We have a very rapidly aging and deteriorating infrastructure. Infrastructure, not only rebuilding the roads, rebuilding the bridges, so that creates jobs. Okay, that's not all of it. We need to rethink, how is this infrastructure laid out? There's a huge benefit to shipping goods inside a country by rail. And right now, if you look at our corridor that we're in, we have really a horrible rail service. I mean, it's deteriorated. I'm not picking on anyone in the rail industry, but it's deteriorated. So we have to look at that. We have to get goods to market, and we have to connect the country. The other thing is building technology into any solution. We have to look at what is the next generation of technology. What is that going to look like? How can we put that in? And all these things are factors. Now, right here immediately in Bridgeport, what I would say is capacity. Okay, we have all these properties that are not being used, that are either in deteriorating or just empty. This is a huge opportunity to combine small manufacturers in one area. You used to have one large manufacturer in this area, let's say. You don't need all the space anymore. You can put 3 or 4 manufacturers in the same space. So there is currently legislation right now in the Connecticut legislature about improving brownfields, giving developers a tax break to develop these brownfields, cap them, and make them available for infrastructure, for manufacturing. That is something that can be passed. That would be a huge benefit, because I believe the tax benefit, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, I think it's 0 up to like 3 million, and then it's like 30% after that, or something like that. That's a lot of money. That will get a developer here to Bridgeport and say, wow, look at that. Let's get rid of some of the eyesores off 95. So I think that, hopefully that answers your question.
Can I add a why to that, please? I think part of what is also maybe not thought of is manufacturing. If you look at manufacturing, mining, and agriculture, those are the 3 areas that actually take something that's a raw material, turn it into something of value. Those are wealth creators. And just talking to John the other day, even if you look at mining or agriculture, productivity is based on manufactured equipment. So that's the root, that's the foundation of the economy. That's what creates wealth, for lack of a better term. That's what creates money. The other piece is, for every dollar spent in manufacturing, there's $1.32 that's generated in other segments of the economy. That's the highest multiplier of any business segment. So as you're investing, as we are investing together into manufacturing, we're also helping out the entire rest of the economy to grow, so that the tax base grows, the life styles, people having great jobs, steady jobs. It's all part of you need to take that foundation and grow it. So adding the why onto both what Dan and John had said.
There's a question back here, I believe.
Yes, it's sort of piggybacking on what you all were just talking about, and it's also more of a comment. I recently completed a study of Bridgeport history. And there was a day in 1917 when the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, who at that time was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, came to Bridgeport and toured all the manufacturing companies. And at that point, we were manufacturing 75% of the arms for the Allied forces in World War I. That's when we were the arsenal democracy. And FDR said at that time, you, more than any city in the country, are responsible for our success in this area. Now, I know obviously we're not going to see those days again. However, I want to congratulate this program for being a footstep to that. And I want to know, from all five of you up there, do you feel like this can somehow continue? Can it be a springboard for not just Bridgeport, not just Connecticut, but for the whole United States of America?
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, Adam Jones is right here, and Adam's the director of the Foundation for America, and we had a press conference up there in Boston to help start the Second American Revolution, because it has to spread all over the country. Because Lacey Manufacturing, whoever you are, you have vendors in Pennsylvania and in Kansas. So it's got to spread across the country. Otherwise, you're not going to get a crucial part for what you make. So it has to go across the country. And I think also we have to start dispelling the myth that it's kind of like it runs through the Emperor's New Clothes, where everybody says, well, the guy's naked. There is no such thing as a service economy. It doesn't exist. I defy anyone to explain what that means. You have to make something. As Ken said, it's the source of wealth is making stuff. But the service economy, unless I haven't read the right article, I don't know what that is. Tom?
Yes, I'm a third-generation manufacturer. There's a lot of pride in continuing my business, and I wanted to say that it's the aging workforce issue, and the efforts, and I'm on the steering committee to. It's exciting to bring the awareness up of manufacturing and trying to get. We need to get a lot more youth involved to see, get them involved in doing something. Yeah, we need bean counters. We need people to work on machinery. We need all sorts of, it's not just going to be a guy working on a Bridgeport,
Right.
But it's important for us to keep collaborating with all the different manufacturing associations, with all the different schools to get all these, get the people, to witness manufacturing is not dark, dirty, and dangerous. And I think it's a great effort that we've got going here to, it's a success. Manufacturing is successful if you're still around in 2014. So you are advanced. So I
Yeah.
just
The other part, thank you, Tom. The other part of this program is going on simultaneously, downstairs, where we've got 7th and 8th graders, and they are learning about advanced manufacturing, and they're doing some work with their hands, which is John's big thing. We've got to get kids to do stuff with their hands. And John is going to actually tour the Advanced Manufacturing Center with those kids later, because what we've heard from people like Kathy Saint, who's a manufacturer, and she's on the next panel, I believe. She has done some research and found out that the key area, the time to get people into manufacturing is 6th, 7th, 8th grade before they go to high school, because once they go to high school, they start having to pick their courses, and they have to have those certain math and science courses in high school. So, the plan is here, right? To your point and the other gentleman's point, we know what has to be done. We have to get to these students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and say, here's the opportunity. Would you like to walk out of a 2-year college and make $80,000 a year? I mean, I wish someone said that to me. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. No offense, Chris. And I ended up getting into communications. which is the antithesis, by the way, communications and law. Just my personal opinion.
We need to focus on manufacturing.
Right. So we know
We've converted you to a manufacturing guy, though, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ken got under my skin, and now I'm doing
I
manufacturing.
do that every day.
But so we know what has to be done, and now we just have to do it, right? So like to Tom's point, let's get all the organizations together and start figuring out how we're going to do this. And then this is the model. And then to the other gentleman's point, now we go. It's like a pebble in the lake, right? It's a ripple. You get the circle, and then the circles grow, and we know how to do it. Let's teach other people how to do it, and then let's make it national.
Also, it's generational, if I can just make a point. We tend to forget or overlook that when I was growing up, and back in 1870, whatever it was, we went outside and played, and everybody has this experience. You go outside and play. We thought we were playing, but we were actually using tools. We were problem solving. We were climbing trees, building tree houses, fixing our own bicycles, digging a hole, whatever it was, running around trying to find your dog. You were problem solving. You had to deal with the physical world, and you had to use your head. Well, now you've got 7th, 8th graders, they're playing video games. Well, that's a big industry. We're probably not going to lose that, but we have to remember that is the age. You just said it's when they're young, because we used to do it naturally. This is the first generation in the history of humankind that has grown up without the knowledge of the use of tools. First one.
The first risk assessment anyone's child does is when they're about that age, maybe a little younger, and they try to figure out, can my bike clear that creek? That's the real
Or that
consequence one,
whatever.
right? If you don't clear it, you're going home wet.
And you'll learn common sense.
And you learn common sense.
Tony?
I want to bring it back to the Hall of Fame. All the things you're talking about fits right into the foundation's vision of the Hall of Fame. It is to go back to the history of manufacturing in our state. Not only the honorees today, but you're looking at, submarines in Groton, Pratt & Whitney engines in Hartford. You've got Sikorsky, and then you have Augustus Whitehead. Mm-hmm. Those are kind of the storytelling that gets to the 7-year-old, the 8-year-olds, just as I remember the first time I went to Cooperstown for a Hall of Fame. And can you talk a little bit about, is that really the vision of this Hall of Fame, is to kind of create a statewide center hub of education, of really just kind of planting the seed in these kids' minds that this is a part of their future?
Yeah, we want to plant that seed early on. There's something about completing something with your hands that's lost. And as somebody who came up through engineering and now in the administrative end, I think I miss that the most, is that sense of completion, of accomplishment. And teaching that early on, it really gives us such a sense of satisfaction. It's impossible to resist. So starting here, this year is Bridgeport. It's an American Manufacturing Hall of Fame. You need to start somewhere. We're starting here. Next is regionally, and then we want to move, statewide,
New England,
regionally,
and then
nationally, as we grow. But it's all about bringing awareness. It's about promoting. It's about working with other like-minded people in other areas of the country, and just bringing back that whole concept of this is a real job. It's a clean job. It's steady employment. There's growth. It'll continue to grow. We just need people to be interested. So getting to the young folks early on so that they have a concept of what it is, they'll be very likely to at least consider going into the job. Right now, there's a lot of discouragement amongst parents. My dad worked for that, and you're going to go to college, or that kind of thing. But that was a different sort of manufacturing, and it was a different sort of circumstance. So if we can spread this and continue it across the nation, and just, it's awareness building, and then part of it is also fund building to help people get into the field. I don't know if I answer that or.
From my perspective, I've been on the outside of this effort, but from watching it from the foundation and just kind of keeping an eye on it and watching it develop, it seems to me that the synergies are that by celebrating the past, we can engage contemporary manufacturers in dialogue, and precisely the kind of dialogue we're talking about, so that people who might have the opportunity to see the Hall of Fame honor something from the past will also have the opportunity to be exposed to the people who are carrying on that tradition. So that then it will provide an opportunity, and who knows where it goes. Obviously, we're just starting the thing. But the potential clearly is there, and I think you can hear from this discussion, everyone's thinking very consciously about that potential. To use this as an opportunity to deliver that message. And all kidding aside about the art, to give people the opportunity to say, here as we celebrate the past, we can also say the people who are most supportive of celebrating the past are people like Lacey Manufacturing, who are doing very different kind of manufacturing, so they can deliver that message too.
And to that point, John's the one who insisted that we look at this on a national basis. So I would ask John, what have you're traveling all the time, what have you seen nationally as a need?
Well, there's a lot of efforts. Like, for instance, not too long ago I was in Milwaukee, the Bradley Foundation, and what they do in their high school there, they buy local buildings, houses, they're derelict, and in the basement of their school, they have different sections, electricians, carpenters, plumbers, and they teach the kids these skills, and it's the kids, under guidance, go and renovate the homes. And then they sell the home and the profit goes into the school. And they've been doing that for years. And these kids, come out with a high school diploma, they're also a pretty decent carpenter or a plumber. And again, you can go on and be a brain surgeon or a stockbroker, that's your choice. But just the fact that you know that you have this skill that no one can ever take away from you, I think that's marvelous. You could go anywhere in the world tomorrow and get a job. But I see that across the country things are starting to pop up, and that's what we were up in Boston yesterday talking about too. In Amesbury, Massachusetts, there's a place called Lowell Boats, and they have a summer program teaching teenagers how to build boats. And I think we're at a tipping point in our culture. We were always a nation of doers, and then now it's like the doers and the theorists. It's like getting a flat tire. You either get out of the car and change the tire, or you panic. I'd rather us become a nation of people just get out and change the tire. But more and more, we get people that they're just panic and don't know what to, and give the problem to somebody else. But I see that, and also the media, the media. We're complicit in the fact that every time you see a plumber or one of those trades come onto your movie or television screen, they're made fun of, like a factory worker. Gomer Pyle, he was a master mechanic, but he was depicted as an idiot, and that's just not true. I was a carpenter here in Bridgeport, and as a young man, the smartest people I've ever met were people that toted around a toolbox and a thermos, because they were problem solvers all day long. And again, like I said before, people brought that to the state capitol when they were making decisions for the rest of us. But I do see that around the country, little by little. But people are starting to become aware, and especially in the media, and I always said the New York Times won't print an article about this until their elevator stops running. So what happened? Well, how come? Well, it's because we don't have anybody to fix it anymore. That's when they'll write the big article, but then it's way too late.
And Tony, to your point, you mentioned Gustav Whitehead, and I see Frank Boris is behind you. And I know he's playing a documentary on Whitehead. Here's a guy who built an airplane engine 100 and something years ago in his shed, right? I mean, that's incredible. Now, Dave Tuttle at Platt High School, He just built the same engine, but he had all the modern tools. He built the Whitehead engine from Whitehead's plant, right? So he had all these tools. Whitehead built it,
Out of old steam pipes.
Without a plan.
right, without a plan.
You want to speak
inventing.
now?
So that's
Here's the man who built the model of the Gustav Whitehead plane. Do you want to say anything?
We were fortunate to have pictures of what Gustav Whitehead did. And now we've analyzed these pictures, we've had engineers draw blueprints, and we made a model of the Gustav Whitehead airplane, which I built and flew. And so that was just amazing to me. If Gustav Whitehead could, if I could fly it, I know he could fly it. And so we should capitalize on that. We should let kids know that here in Bridgeport, someone built the first airplane. Not the Wright brothers, Gustav Whitehead did. And maybe we can get some of these kids interested in working on model airplanes and continuing.
sure. Bridgeport owns Whitehead. I mean, in the sense that they're intertwined. They can never be separated, and that is something that's a great example. It's a living example of innovation right here, and what can be done with, as John says, with going in your backyard and in the garage and building stuff with your hands. It's the embodiment of what is possible.
I'm going to exercise the prerogative of the chair at this point. I think we have to go to the next segment of our program. I just want to make a couple of comments just in reaction to what we've been talking about. First of all, I think for all the manufacturers on the stage and in the room, the challenge I keep hearing about is how do we get young people interested in manufacturing? Where do you start with that? How do you overcome this image? And even it goes back to the kind of the baby boom generation like us. We have kids. Do we want them to go to college, or how would we feel about them going to something? I think there's a speed bump there that has to be overcome too. And then to just get back to the culture of doing things and inventing things. One of my favorite stories from the late 19th century is Mark Twain's book, Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. When the protagonist gets unstuck in time and ends up back in Arthurian England, he's waylaid by some knight who says, well, I'll take you to the city. And he's describing this magnificent city where all these wonders, the technical wonders and cultural wonders, he's going to be absolutely amazed when he gets there, and he's talking about Camelot, but the protagonist just looks at him and he says, Bridgeport? That's what Bridgeport used to be, and of course the story then is the Connecticut Yankee overwhelms Arthurian technology with just things he invents out of what he finds lying around, and that idea is something that to recapture that I think is an important part of getting people interested in manufacturing too. So let me thank the 4 folks who are on stage, and we have a few more to call up, but if we could just have a. And let me, for our next segment, we have a panel discussion on manufacturing issues. And Dan and Anita are leaving us, and I think, who else do we have? Tom O'Reilly. Is Kathy Saint with us? Great. Come on up.
Kathy, do you have a microphone? What's that? Did you get a microphone?
There you go.
Okay, and Ken and John are going to stay. Mike Guger, Janet Prislow, and Pat McDonald. Would you join us, please?
It's here.
I want you to challenge him.
You're right? Oh, good.
Do we have, I don't know if we have people in the right order. Let me see if I can do this. To my immediate left, Tom Auray. He's an executive vice president of, as he mentioned, another multi-generation family manufacturing business, Bridgeport Fittings. Tom's actively involved in several roles in manufacturing business organizations to promote manufacturing and worker training, and represents them at the state level. To his left is Mike Guger. Mike's the director of the manufacturing program at Housatonic, about which you have been hearing some things today. Mr. Ratzenberger and Mr. Lisk, we have already heard from. Kathy Saint is the president of Schwartel Stamp, another multi-generation business that has called Bridgeport home for over 120 years. Well, that's over 120, so we're in the ballpark. Janet Prislow is a partner at Blum Shapiro, which, as you can tell from our backdrop, may have had something with sponsoring this event. Blum Shapiro also needs no introduction, but I will anyway, the largest accounting and financial advisory firm to manufacturers in New England. And on my extreme left, Pat McDonald is the Senior Director of Conservation and Load Management at United Illuminating. So, I'm going to, in this segment, we're going to ask, I'm going to ask each of you questions, and we've talked about just having brief responses and then open it up to the panel for brief responses, and then we'll go on to the next question. And at some point, I may have to maintain time discipline. So even though if any one of you, it would be interesting to hear from any one of you for all the time we have available. John, let me start with you again. On numerous occasions, you've expressed your concerns about manufacturing in the United States and what you believe needs to be done to strengthen it. You've spoken to many United States leaders and manufacturers and interested parties for 15 years, and you say we're at a tipping point. If you had to pick one thing we all need to address right now, as soon as we walk out of this room, what would it be?
Try to steer the children away from the electronic entertainment and put them back in the sandbox. It's as simple as that, because children, we all learn tactily. Between birth and 5 years old is when the child is formed to become, the adult. And if you entertain them with electronic media all the time, basically you're raising a food processor. So you have to get them, and I'm a big fan of the sandbox in kids because you learn common sense. First thing you learn is don't eat sand. Right? But you've learned something. You know how it feels, you know how it tastes, you can shape things, and then they grow from there. Give them things to do. Let them function, because we have opposable thumbs, the human beings, and that's what sets us apart from the rest of creation. We got to use them, not just for this.
Give them erector sets and Lego sets.
Well, yeah, the erector sets don't exist anymore, but scraps of wood, nails. When my kids were younger, somebody had a pool in the neighborhood. And said, how can we have a pool? So I got a shovel, dug a hole in the backyard, got the garden hose, there's your pool.
Yeah.
And they were 3, 4 years old, but they had a ball. Muddy, just covered in mud all.
They accomplished something.
They loved it.
Reactions, comments on that question from anyone else? That's fine. We have plenty of stuff to do. Ken,
Yes.
your company has managed to thrive on the east side of Bridgeport for nearly 100 years. Hope I have that right. And you produce highly technical medical products that end up in hospital operating rooms around the world. How does a company like yours evolve to stay relevant, given changes in the world economy and social needs over more than a century?
Well, yes, it's 96 years, so yes, you're pretty much on par there. But P.E.P. Lacey started out as a tool company, a small tool company that made. We didn't actually make anything. We made tools for other companies to make things, particularly in the bearing industry, and then that evolved into making bearing components. We did that for many years. But it's continually looking at what you're doing and reinventing. You cannot rest on your laurels. You cannot just write out what you think you're good at. You have to constantly be scanning the marketplace. In the 70s, we saw a great opportunity in medical. We weren't doing any medical prior to that, and completely switched our company over. We do about 95% medical. We became experts in it. We worked very hard at it. But you have to stay relevant to the needs of, both of society in particular, and also what the economy is driving. So another 50 years from now, we may not be in medical at all. We may be making the thing that hovers the cars off the ground. I don't know. But constantly scanning your horizon for technology and looking at when incremental leaps are necessary in terms of change and when monumental ones are needed. And when you need to make that decision to make a monumental leap, you have to be prepared and make it. That's the way you exist. Otherwise, if you don't evolve, you disappear.
But then you have to be the one who thinks of the light bulb, whatever that happens to be at the time.
That's right.
Any other thoughts, since we have some people who represent long-time manufacturing entities, other thoughts on adaptation? Kathy?
If you look at Connecticut's history, most of the companies that are still here and have been here for a long time started out and then adapted through the years. And so like in the medical industry, material science is a really important thing, and staying connected with universities that are doing research. There's a material called nitinol. It's memory-shaped metal. It's used in stents for arteries, and the cool thing about it is you can make it, and then form it to a shape at a certain temperature. Then when you put it back into its original temperature, it'll change and go back to another shape. So they can stretch it out and make it thin, put it into an artery, and then once it gets to body temperature, it goes back to its original shape and fattens up and stays there. So that kind of thing is the kind of thing that Ken, in his business, has to be staying in touch with. How do you work with those kinds of metals? Where is their future? And that happens in every single business. Tom has the same kinds of challenges as far as material science is concerned and making better products. So we have to do that or we're not going to be around.
I'd like to contribute.
Sure, go ahead.
In the fact that you listen to your customers, interact with them all the time, make sure that, they're happy. And that's one of those important parts of the puzzle too. And certainly keeping close contact with your employees, making sure that they're involved, they're engaged, and empowering them. I think there's been a little bit of a management change in recent years there to help ourselves get better, get stronger, and never, as Ken says, rest on your laurels. You got to keep working. If the company's not making money, how are we going to, you want to beat the competition. And a lot of that's been focused on beating the competition. That's been the offshore entities and doing things smarter, faster, cheaper, better.
Okay, thank you. Question for Kathy. We've talked about you own
I have no idea.
being involved with a successful multi-generational family-owned business. You've been outspoken about what needs to be done when it comes to tax incentives for Connecticut manufacturers. As a small company, what are some of the struggles you have with the way current national and state tax legislation is written?
How many people in this room know what a sub-S corporation is? Awesome. That's very much not true in Hartford or Washington. And so most of the smaller businesses and manufacturers are structured as sub-S corporations, and the tax laws are different. The taxes flow through from the business to the owner's personal income tax. And a lot of the legislation that's written is written for C Corps, and there's no thought given to the fact that we are in manufacturing, the small corporations are the ones that are creating the jobs. We represent like 80% of the jobs in manufacturing, and we have different needs. So we were just talking about the need for R&D, that it's really important for us to stay competitive. Bead Industries, the guy who started it actually started, was it? Bryant Electric. And then he started making bead chain. Bead chain became a commodity. There was offshore competition from Korea, so Ken Bryant, who's a brilliant guy, decided, I'm not going to fight this. I'm going to go over there and make a deal with them. I'm going to show them how to make better bead chain. I'm going to be their distributor. Then what I've got to do is I've got to take this waging technology that I have in-house, and I've got to find a new application and market for it. Since he was already in the electronics and electrical business, he started using the swaging technology to make pins, electrical pins, very high tolerance and low cost. And so that was the rebirth for his company, which had gone through some really tough times, as all of us sitting in this panel have. Right now, as it stands in Connecticut, the R&D that costs that he incurred are not tax deductible to his business. But companies like Sikorsky, big C Corps, do get a tax deduction for that. And so this is one of the things that we have to constantly educate legislators about. Another example that's national is that there's organizations like NAM, National Association of Manufacturers, that I think most of the smaller manufacturers don't feel really understand us or represent us very well. And a perfect example of that would be a bill that has been passed in Connecticut, but that we're really struggling to get traction on nationally, and it's called the MRA, the Manufacturer's Reinvestment Account. So if you think back to the beginning where I said that the income flows through to our personal tax returns, wouldn't it be genius if we were able to set some of that aside and accumulate it over a few years so that we could make a big purchase that's strategic for our business instead of having to scramble around and spend the money on things that are less strategic so that we don't end up giving half of it away to the government. The MRA is a bill that was actually thought up by Hugh McCann, who owns Identification Products right here in Bridgeport. And that bill proposes that small manufacturers be able to set aside, I think the original proposal was $250,000. I think they're now talking about $500,000 of income pre-tax. It must be invested in a local community bank. How great is that? It gives the banks money to lend to all the people in the community, so that's a win-win. You accumulate it for a few years, and then you can take it out and pay I think the proposal was 15%, so that's what the hedge fund guys pay, who don't create jobs, don't, as far as I'm concerned, add a whole heck of a lot of value to our economy. But we would pay the 15% on that money, and we would be investing it in capital equipment, in training, and all of those things are part of the jobs multiplier that manufacturers represent. When I hire somebody, I'm not like, no offense, but an accounting firm where you're buying paper and copiers and things like that. I'm buying steel, brass, cutters, coolant, hiring consultants to come in, doing safety training, sending my employees off to school. I'm the jobs multiplier. I'm the one that's making the 3 jobs, 4 jobs to every one that I create. So, win-win. We went to NAM with it to see if we could get them to support us, and they talked to their members, and their board are mostly really big corporations, and the big corporations said they didn't really see a big value in it. We talked to Jim Himes, who's one of the smartest and best informed representatives that we have, and he said the same thing. And the reason is because they're coming from really big businesses, and Jim Himes put it perfectly. He said, it seems like companies would have better things to do with their money than stick it in a bank for 5 years, But the truth is, we don't. We're manufacturers. We're not investment bankers. We don't have special brokers who can put our money in places and move it around and make money on our money. We just want to put it there and put it back in our business. It's that simple. But NAM doesn't understand that. Congressman Himes does understand it now and is very supportive of this bill, as is Blumenthal and the other representatives. Rosa DeLauro was on board from the get-go, because she always has been for manufacturers. But these are perfect examples of how legislators just have absolutely no understanding of the reality of our world as manufacturers and small businesses and sub-S corporations in particular.
Any reactions from our other panelists on the tax dimension?
Can I hear a true dat?
True dat, right.
Yes.
I was going to say, boy,
Other than
she knows
Me
what
Too.
she's talking about.
Yeah, I'm afraid to say anything else.
There has been some additional legislative success in this past session in Connecticut where the apprenticeship tax credits, which were aligned with the larger corporate C Corps is now open to the S Corp entities. So, and
R&D?
LLCs, and so there's all sorts of.
But we didn't get the R&D, I
Not the
don't
R&D
believe.
yet. I know they're working
So-
on that.
Yeah, the
So
R&D
C
is
Corps
separate.
get R&D tax credits so that they can reinvest in their businesses. Ken Bryant from Beat Electric, Tom Moray, and Ken Lisk, and I do not. Makes no sense.
The other fact tied to that is that there are only in the range of 150 state apprentices in the manufacturing category, which is, if we're looking at an aging workforce issue, there needs to be more workers trained at a Housatonic Community College, at the other educational institutions there that are doing technical skills, and to beef up that number so that there are more workers available for us in the future.
Well, the good news is we finally got a governor that's really listening to us, because all of us have been up in Hartford. I've been up there for 20 years, talking to various governors, and nobody's really put their money where their mouth is. And this Advanced Manufacturing Center here and the others in the state show that he really gets what we need. He did a walking tour when he was, first elected, and he said that the thing that kept coming back to him, he kept thinking that everyone would be saying, we need tax breaks, we need this, we need that, and every single manufacturer he went in said, we need employees with the right skills, and so he heard us, and I think that's certainly gives me hope.
Let me turn now to Janet. Janet, you and I are the representatives up here of the mythical service
bean
economy.
counter.
Although I will say that I think, to the point John made earlier, I think service in service economy is a transitive verb. Without industry to provide the services to, we would have nothing to do. So those are our clients. But let me ask you this: Blum Shapiro is the largest provider of accounting, tax, and business consulting services in New England. How have you seen upturns and downturns in the economy impact your manufacturing clients and business strategy and investment?
Sure. And we're very well invested in manufacturing. At Blum Shapiro in New England, we have over 400 manufacturing companies that we work with, and some of it is bean counting, accounting, and tax services, but consulting as well, helping companies continue to grow and become more profitable. So I would say in the times of economic downturn, the focus that we saw with a lot of our clients was survival, really. Just, how could they be more efficient? Unfortunately, that meant the loss of jobs. The focus was on technology that was already in place. How could these companies take more advantage of that to be more efficient, to survive in the competition that they were going through with less volume? The other areas continued to be R&D, looking for areas to research and development within their businesses to make sure they could continue to be competitive, look for diversification of their products, as you talked about, kind of keep up with what the market was looking for and how they could tie themselves to a variety of areas rather than being vulnerable in one sector of the economy. And honestly, I was really impressed. I think as a firm, we've been really impressed with the Connecticut manufacturers, how resilient they really were in the latest economic downturn. And as you say, the companies that are here, they're here for a reason. There's intellectual capital, there's family-run businesses, there's a lot of pride, and it's not something that you can just send off to China or Mexico that easily. So then when times got a little better, when volume picked up, I think our clients, what we saw was that there was a higher reliance on technology. Advanced manufacturing, unfortunately, meant not all the jobs came back. The jobs that did come back were higher skills. That's why we're here talking about this at the college. It's really important. And I think what we did a survey about a year ago, the manufacturers that responded to our survey in Connecticut said that 56% of them plan to hire additional employees this coming year, but 66% said that they were unable to find the skill sets that they needed, which we've been talking about, but those are some statistics we saw. So there's been a continued investment as the economy has come back in certain sectors to grow that population, to get the training to work with community colleges and other organizations to build those skills. The other area we've seen a lot of investment has been on exporting, looking for new markets for our products. Connecticut manufacturers, in our survey said 79% of manufacturers were doing business internationally. And overall, I think the statistics that we saw from 2000 till last year was that exporting activities, not just manufacturing, but any areas of the business in Connecticut have doubled since 2000 to 2013. So it's pretty significant. I think people need to continue to think that way. We want to be the exporter, obviously, and that's where a lot of the focus has been on these companies.
Reactions from anyone else on the panel?
On the exporting piece, I lost a huge amount of business, my family's business, in the late 90s, early 2000s. A percentage of it has come back, but it's not come back to our shores, it's come back to Mexico. And so I'm doing a lot of shipping of, I make tools, so I'm kind of like you guys used to be. I make tools that decorate and form my customers' parts, and so I'm shipping probably mostly to Mexico, and then some in the U.S. And a little bit to Canada. So it's it has come back, but maybe not all the way back.
Patrick, let me turn to you now. Latest energy numbers show the U.S. is on a 25-year high for oil production and will soon exceed the production of Saudi Arabia. Natural gas production is at an all-time high. Do you expect energy prices to level off or drop, especially given alternative green energy technology growth? If so, what does this mean, or if not, I guess? Either way, what does it mean in terms of opportunity to expand manufacturing in the U.S.? What can we expect in the next 5 years?
So that's a pretty broad topic, but I'll take a slice at it. And it's true, the U.S. has experienced an oil boom, but I don't know about you, but I haven't seen that at the pump when I go gas up my car. So I don't think prices are going to be going down because energy is a global commodity. It's traded worldwide, and people in Asia and Africa, they want to have what we have. They want to have cars and air conditioners and all those things. The one exception to there is natural gas, because it's hard to export and expensive to export. So natural gas is lower on a per BTU basis than oil would be. So natural gas is a real opportunity. But if you look at what's going on in Washington around climate change, and a lot of the weather patterns we've seen lately are linked to climate change, and one of the key contributors to that is carbon emissions, that it's critical when you shift to natural gas, because it's a lower cost fuel, that you also look at efficiency of your operations, because you don't want to, first of all, waste the fuel, and you also don't want to have the environmental impacts associated with burning fuels. So having the most efficient equipment. And so one of the things we've done at the UIL companies, UI and Southern Connecticut Gas, is we've shifted our efficiency programs. We've provided rebates for lighting and air conditioning for years. Now we're looking more holistically, especially with manufacturers, to look at how they can make their business operations as efficient as possible, and not just look at the energy that they maybe are using, but also look at their waste streams and how can they minimize those, because those are expensive, and also their raw materials and their overall process, because if the process is more efficient, the energy utilization is also more efficient. It makes the manufacturer stronger. It helps their bottom line because it lowers their costs, even if the fuel is less expensive, and also helps the environmental aspects of the company. So it's a win-win-win for everyone. That's where our focus has been.
For the manufacturer representatives on the stage, any thoughts on energy?
Just to comment, we've done several, we've worked with the UI on several projects, and it's been tremendous help. There's a level of underwriting that's done, bringing in experts to streamline us. We end up with a higher quality product at a lower price, or a lower cost, not necessarily a lower price. And it's been a very good partnership. So I think the UI and Holdings has done a tremendous job of looking at the manufacturing sector and the energy that is used, and finding a different way of helping the UI's needs and also helping the manufacturer's needs. So I just want to, say publicly, thank you.
Thank you for that comment. And we realize that energy, all things in New England are expensive, right? Labor's high, taxes are high, energy costs are high. So we want to, and we've realized that for a while, so we want to focus on how can we be as efficient as possible, so that maybe the cost per unit is higher than somewhere down south, but the overall cost for your energy is less because you use it much more efficiently. And that's been our strategy for quite a while.
Just a tangential thought. You're talking, we all know that there's no environmental protection agency in China, and yet 1/3 of California's air pollution, according to the Los Angeles Times, comes from China. The air currents go around, as we all know, and the ocean currents. And so, in a way, it's a grand irony is when people tell you and force you of the changes you have to make in order to be energy efficient and clean. The other word, sneakers made in China, that's contributing to the air pollution of the rest of the planet. But I haven't seen anyone anywhere in any press or government actually bring that issue up. Say, wait a second, because we're talking about the global pristine nature of the world, not just the United States. But no one's brought that issue up. So if you buy New Balance shoes that are made up in Massachusetts, then you can help stop air pollution. And with American...
We're paying for it either way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In environmental law, we talk about externalities and about how the cost of pollution is really, it's cost of doing business, but if you're not regulated for it, then everybody else ends up bearing the cost.
Yeah.
But to your point earlier about looking at that $3 t-shirt, all of these things are externalities of that $3 price. Not just the effect on jobs, but also the effect on the environment of pushing that off to a country that doesn't operate in compliance with our kind of norms.
With the manufacturing associations, the collaborative efforts, we've been working with the DEEP, Department of Environmental Energy and
Energy and Environmental Protection.
Yes, energy and environmental protection there. And also we're doing the prime, we've done a prime program event there, so productivity, thank you, allowed us to streamline our machines. But the regulatory effects are, Connecticut needs to be more sensible, and I think that there's some listening. We're at the table and talking about, ways to, get more compliance from all the manufacturing world and the people that are producing things there. So, and that involves looking at sensible regulation, because sometimes the regulation in Connecticut has made it more difficult to, the environment. It's been difficult for, say, new business considering coming to Connecticut because the regulations are tough, and they should be to some regard. We don't want to pollute, we don't want to ruin this beautiful state, but it's also more expensive, and it causes a lot of businesses from the outside to say, well, where do I go? Do I go to Rhode Island? Do I go to New York? Do I go to Connecticut? Connecticut's got that reputation, and so we're working to make it a better place for manufacturers, so that more the regulatory environment, you'll get a second chance on, okay, you get a warning, and then you can look towards modernizing, making newer efficiency machines that will...
We want it to be based on science, number one. A lot of it is not, there's a lot of pollution that actually comes down from Massachusetts into Connecticut. And there's a lot of focus on manufacturers when dumpsters in the back of shopping malls and things like that probably have a lot more bad stuff going into them. I think for the most part, the manufacturers I know are doing their very best to be clean, and we want to be environmentally responsible. So we want the regulations to be really based on science. And we also want, and I think this is improving, it's not there yet, but we want it to be a relationship like we have with OSHA, where they come in, and if they see something, and as long as it's not, a life-threatening issue, they come in as an advisory capacity where they work with you and make suggestions, as opposed to coming in with gotchas. And I think each one of us here has probably got some pretty ridiculous horror stories from dealing with the old DEP. So the big improvements with SD, and I think hopefully they'll continue on with the new people, and we're working our best to get them to understand our world as well.
Just a couple of brief reactions. I think one piece of conventional wisdom is that the cheapest kilowatt is the one you don't use. And the cheapest ton of waste to get rid of is the one you don't generate. So that everybody seems to be very conscious of, increasing efficiency, pollution prevention, things of that nature. But of course, if we want to save Long Island Sound, what we all should do is stop fertilizing our lawns. Don't get me going on that.
Well, but also,
That's the science I'm talking about.
the people making the rules are mostly theorists. I bet you there's not a fisherman in the legislative body in Hartford passing laws about the oyster beds and the fishing along Long Island Sound. But you're not one of them. But the theories are good, but in real life, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't.
A topic we could spend a lot more time on, but let's move on to Mike.
Sure, I got time.
Mike? Mike Guger, you've been directing the program here. We've been hearing from folks about the future of advanced manufacturing. Give us some real-world perspective on this. We've got a 19-year-old recent high school graduate or a 35-year-old unemployed person who's repurposing for a new career. Enrolls in your program. What can that person expect in the way of options when he or she completes the Advanced Manufacturing Center certificate program?
The program tries to prepare them to be in service to these people who face all of these challenges. The manufacturers have their backs up against the wall with all that's been spoken of today: the pollution, the taxes, the skill sets, the technologies, the foreign competition. The students that we're trying to develop are the ones that can grow with these companies as this new resurgence of manufacturing takes place. We're positioning them with the technology, with the CNC that's been discussed, with the broad-based education that we're providing them in manufacturing. So it's not just running the machines, but it is the metrology aspects, the measurement aspects, the quality aspects, the lean and elimination of waste, finding ways to do it better, faster, cheaper. The state, in their wisdom, has allowed all of the advanced manufacturing programs, classroom work, to fold right into the apprenticeship programs so that they can continue with their education through the apprenticeship programs in the state into the manufacturers and expand that partnership between the schools and the manufacturers. Their options as far as their future is concerned are limitless. They can continue in the apprenticeships, they can come back for more education, they can expand their on-the-job training. This opens doors to them that many of them probably didn't even realize existed. The manufacturing program, I feel my role up here today is to say thank you on behalf of a lot of these students, because the foundation has been doing a tremendous work with the Hall of Fame, which is going to help support some of these students. The manufacturers that are here that are going to hire these students, it's all just a tremendous cooperation that everyone benefits from, and certainly these new workers will benefit the most.
Reactions from anybody else?
I have two out of the program, one from each year. And the first one to come through, he's moved on to a toolmaker apprenticeship. So that's the path he's taken. The second one we've had for 60 days. He just reminded me of that the other day. And we've been evaluating him for his skill sets. Most likely he's going to move into a toolmaker apprenticeship. So as I'm trying to keep my CNC machines going, I find that I'm moving these people that are coming out into higher skills. And it's part of that whole stepladder piece. You can get off wherever you want. And for these two individuals, they wanted to continue. And having the second one, the one that started this year, just recently, straight out of high school. So not knowing how to use a rule or any measurement equipment or any type of manufacturing equipment within the duration of the program, which is not, and for parents looking at 4 years versus a year and starting a good career that has growth, and again, walking out with college credits, it's just tremendous. So the students can take it where they want it. And I've had some very good results coming out of the program. And I think each of us have.
I have a guy that I hired from the program, and one of the things that we've communicated to the schools, is exactly what John was talking about earlier, which is, critical thinking skills. And, any one of us, if we see on hobbies at the bottom of a resume that somebody works on their own car, they go to the top of the pile. And so one of the things that we've communicated to the program is that we really want the kids to have good critical thinking skills, and that CNC is great, but the thought process that happens before you put something into the CNC, as far as how you're going to rough out the blank, and it's probably going to be on a manual machine because that's just faster and quicker, and how you're going to set things up, and are you going to build some kind of fixture to hold it and everything. That's the part that is missing, and that's the part that goes into what we call a real tool maker, as opposed to somebody who's just a machinist and going to sit there and push the button. And there's still a tremendous need for that, and you can't find a tool maker around here for love or money. So we've got to grow our own, and the fact that he's got two makes me very jealous. But those problem-solving skills are the piece that we've been missing in the last 10, 15 years when we've hired, and that's what we're working with the program to stress is really important.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all of the Industrial Advisory Committee members that have been helping to guide the program. The growth of the program and the direction of the program requires their input, and again, thank you very much. Actually, Kathy's employee, his brother came through the program in the second year, and so we're starting to see this kind of legacy start to develop, and the word is getting out. So the growth of the program and its value into the community is expanding every year. The skills that these students come out with are not, they're entry-level skills, maybe a little better than that. We hope it's a little better than that. We strive to make it a little better than that, so that these students can float to the top of the pile and get hired. And so the reputation of the program can grow, and it just starts to snowball. It's exciting time right now. There's been challenges, but there's been some great successes as well. And I want to just emphasize one small thing. We talk about the kids coming in, and they're not. Some of them, certainly high school kids coming out of high school, but I've had students as old as 62 years old coming in and reinventing themselves, trying to find new opportunities in their lives. So it really does cut across the spectrum. And it's been, again, very exciting, very, very rewarding.
We used the word opportunity a lot in setting up the program this morning, and clearly that goes to that, but I can't help but resist can't help but observe that it sounds like somebody coming into this program has the realistic prospect of having the manufacturers on this panel eventually fighting over that person. So that's not a bad.
Yeah, the brother that
courteously, of course.
The brother of my employee got hired by a company down in Stamford, who then hired two more. So there's three that they've snapped up.
It's true. I was there yesterday, and they're all doing tremendously well. I'm very proud of them.
There's a responsibility beyond taking them from these advanced manufacturing programs and working with them to continue the development. So it's not just a job, it's a career. And
well, the other thing that hopefully we can get this message out more broadly is that your companies are interested in investing in people to bring them along.
I've been sending my guy back for classes.
Invest in a person, you invest in a machine, you're going to put money towards both.
Tom, let me turn finally to you. I'm going to just give you an open-ended question. We've heard a lot about movement in the state capitol to address manufacturing concerns. What are some of the, from your perspective, What are some of the significant issues being addressed or not addressed?
Well, I think we've been addressing education on a whole. That's ongoing. And I think Kathy and Ken and there's other associations that we're collaborating with, Marna, that we're working together to put our heads together and look at issues, and most of them are education-based, but they're also tax-related. There's looking to help not just, mostly the smaller manufacturers. Those are the ones that don't have the ability to hire and buy new machinery. They need some support. So I think our efforts have been, one, to work with the education system and make that stronger, and getting funding for that to help take employees that maybe been working in other places there. So there's been step-up programs and things like that that we're trying to get the word out to not just the people that are on the committees, but to the people across the spectrum there. So we've been working and meeting with our legislators. We have, I know there's some, the Senate's in session right now, but we have to get active and keep in close contact with state legislators and even the MRA bill that's down. We're trying to see that gets traction down in Washington as well. So apprenticeship, the R&D tax credits, and education.
We collaborate with a lot of different organizations. We're all members of the New Haven Manufacturers Association. Some of us are also members of the Smaller Manufacturers Association in Waterbury. There's MAC, also in Waterbury, which is statewide, that does manufacturing advocacy, and then CBIA, and then Precision Metal Association. I'm president of the Metal Cluster. And so we all work together to go up to Hartford because we're small, and so we're not going to have a voice like a UTC company would. So we go up all together and talk about these things and try and get them to understand the value that we bring. And so the education piece, we feel like we've gotten listened to. We feel like we've gotten listened to with the environmental issues to a degree. The governor I actually had to move my business a couple of years ago, and so I got a low interest loan from the state. And it was at a time where I really wasn't going to get good, affordable help from the private sector. And so I got it from the state and was able to move the business and also buy a key piece of equipment that helped me to leverage the business into some new markets. So there's a really strong partnership between us, between the governor's office certainly, and manufacturers and some of the legislators. There's a new manufacturing caucus up there that gives us a little hope. It's kind of creaking along, but I think it's going to gain momentum, and so I think that we've got certainly the best relationship that we've had in I would say probably the last 20 years with the local government.
Any other reactions on legislative priorities? Okay, with that, I think I'd like to ask you to join me in thanking our panelists. And we're now going to go to our segment on disruptive technology. Yeah, you guys, you'll be able to, if you go there, you'll be able to see the screen. New technologies emerge almost weekly. We've heard about some of them here. Advanced robotics, 3D printing, energy storage, others are truly disruptive technologies that promise to transform life, business, and the global economy. Some could enable your product to be the next big thing in your industry. I'd like to introduce Marna Wilbur, who's the Director of Corporate Communications and Public Relations for ASSA ABLOY. She's going to talk to us about how ASSA ABLOY, which is a global manufacturer of doors, locks, and related door hardware, has experimented and succeeded with disruptive technology in its manufacturing processes, products, and commercializations.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, this is so cool. I get to spread this open, and there's the presentation. One thing I wanted to say before I get started is my cousin Ken Bullard was here in the background, and it's really just a tremendous honor to be part of the Bullard family and see it recognized. So now on to disruptive technologies. Different from some of the manufacturers you saw up on the panel, ASSA ABLOY is a very large global company. We're about $7.4 billion. We're based in Sweden, and every brand that the company owns has something to do with an opening. Most of them door openings. So just think the big jet hangers, that's an opening. A window, that's an opening. The doors in the back, that's an opening. They're mighty fine looking openings too, by the way, with our products. And so I'm going to give you a quick look into the Americas division because that's the reference point of all the examples that I'm going to give you. And I'm going to really show you how we've experimented and used technology to help our innovation efforts. Again, in the Americas division, we're 33 brands. Most of these are non-residential brands. So you may or may not know all of them. Again, we're about $1.5 billion in the Americas division. And I'm going to just give you a perspective so you're clear things around the opening and what it is. So this is what we make. We make doors, frames, perimeter security, so think gates and gate systems. We make strikes, which are the little electronic things that go into the door, and you usually wave a card or something or a fob, and it releases the lock so you can open the door. So strikes, mag locks, aluminum door hardware, and other accessories. We make locks, hinges, you'll see here, exit devices, the push bars. We also make high security key systems that you might find on vending machines, as well as in perimeter exterior locks. And we do make some residential door hardware from these brands. And so all together, I wanted to also point out that here in Connecticut, these 4 major brands are manufactured here, either in New Haven, Connecticut or Berlin, Connecticut. We most recently brought the Yale brand back from Tennessee, moved it back to Connecticut 2 years ago. And it was sort of, that process really opened our eyes to really the skills gap that exists. And so it doesn't exist just for small and mid-sized manufacturers, but it exists for very large ones as well. It's identical, the problem. All of these brands here, again, are more than 150 years old. So certainly the one way they've been able to survive is through flexibility and adaptation. And I think if you're producing 20 million combinations of products, you have to be adaptable. You have to be flexible. And that's pretty much what happens within our factories, certainly the hardware factories. Now, the one thing I wanted to point out is, we've really been able to adapt and be flexible, but that's great. But if you're not innovating at the same time, you may not survive. And so that, within the scope of ASSA ABLOY, is really our second goal. We really want to lead in innovation within our industry and perhaps even maybe in the world. You never know. One interesting thing is that the rate of innovation in the locking industry, snore show. Okay, absolute snore show. So basically the first real lock was probably a wooden pin lock back in around 4000 BC. In fact, I think I still have a lock of that type on my 1690 center chimney salt box home. Okay, that's just, things just did not evolve. But hey, we had an evolution in 1865. The first cylinder, pin and tumbler cylinder, was created right here in Connecticut by Linus Yale. But this is when we finally really started to catch fire. 1994, we went from making knobs to levers. Ooh, you have no idea how difficult that was to actually start figuring out how to get a lever in that kind of torque to actually stay on the spindle and work with some longevity. And that was actually a result of code. And you'll notice in our industry, particularly, code is also driving change. But after 1994, everything started to just completely accelerate the rate of innovation and change. And so in order to understand how we've sort of used and how we view ourselves and how we've been able to take advantage of that, it's just a quick overview on our strategy. We basically have three basic strategies, and the one listed number one is really making sure that we're cost efficient. And it's through that cost efficiency that we tend to fund number three and number two. So we have to get cost efficient. That money doesn't go to the bottom line. It doesn't go to the shareholders, sorry to say, or for them anyway. It goes to creating more demand for our product and creating new products. So just a quick example, these are the many ways in which we try to be cost efficient. Of course, using lean, sourcing, and value engineering in some cases. But since 2008, if you think 2008 is really when the market started to tank, we've taken out about $230 million in costs from our business. And we've been able to reinvest. And what we've done is some of that reinvestment has gone into automation. And so basically, since about 2008, we've added in about 77 robots across the Americas division, many of them here in Connecticut. And so we've realized annual savings, but again, there's people that need to run these robots, who need to program the robots, fix the robots if they break. Product leadership, this is where really we've poured a lot of money in compared to our previous rates of investment. We've put in about $135 million since 2008, and more than half of it is in electronic access control development. So that's really needing electrical, mechanical engineers. Huge shortage. I was commenting to somebody this morning that we steal each other's, someone was saying we're stealing each other's welders. Well, we're stealing each other's engineers too. We need to import more engineers and create more homegrown engineers and keep them here. But today, again, from 2004 to today, our R&D team is 50% electromechanical engineers. Electronic access control is really where our industry is headed. So it goes back to what everyone was saying on the panel. You need to really understand where your market's going, what types of security is required, and plan for that. And then the third area where we reinvest is in creating demand for our product. It's one thing if you can create it, make it, but if you can't sell it and you can't sell it fast, you can't recoup your investment, and that would prohibit a company from making a decision to continue investing. So we've put in about $650 million in investment in 2008. A lot of that is driven by something that I'll show you, our mobile showrooms. 2008, people stopped going to trade shows. So we had to bring our products and solutions to those people. And so here's, this is pretty much what all of them look like. This is a sampling of two of them, our K through 12 school security showrooms. You'll see them driving down the road, beep, wave. And I show you all this because you've really got to understand how important all this whole cycle is to disruptive technologies. The one thing I wanted to point out is, we didn't just create these 12 disruptive technologies. They've existed, in a smart group like McKinsey packaged it all in a nice little report. And we've been paying quite a lot of attention to that report. And all of these will basically transform and have transformed life, business, and really the global economy. You'll see with some of these examples, you've got the mobile internet. Okay, we're all using smartphones. We're all looking up things on our smartphones. Let's see, we've got automation of knowledge or work. So we're now, you'll go into a store, you'll see somebody walking around with their iPad and they're tapping information into it, and that's automating work so that it can spit back information. The Internet of Things, we've got, again, inclusion of sensors and different kinds of products and technologies around us that are smart and pushing back information. We're using cloud technology for storage and our iTunes and all sorts of things. Autonomous vehicles. I haven't seen one yet here in Connecticut, but they're out there, and they've got a better driving record than me. We'll just leave it at that. Advanced robotics. Again, all essential skills and tools that we use and really are essential to any kind of advanced manufacturing technology center in the curriculum. 3D printing, another huge technology that we use. Energy storage, I'm going to show you a little later. I'm going to take a little bit of liberties with energy storage, but the whole idea of just renewable energy and is essential to how we're functioning in this economy and how we're moving. Next generation genomes. I don't know a whole heck of a lot about it. I know that it's going to save me someday, so I'm all for it. Advanced materials. Kathy was commenting about advanced materials and the importance of experimenting and knowing what to use. And advanced oil and gas exploration and renewable energy. You could say they're going hand in hand with energy storage. But so these are the 12 most disruptive technologies according to this McKinsey study. And I'm going to show you examples of how ASSA ABLOY has used them in our factory environments. So if you take out autonomous vehicles and genome and advanced oil and gas, we don't deal with those. So let's take those three off the table. So again, mobile internet, we're using the mobile internet, again, for just going back to, customers can utilize their internet in their phone to check on orders. We've had to automate lots of processes to make things easier for our customers. Process innovation, we're using advanced robotics and 3D printing. Here's an example of a traditional robot, a type of robot you'd see in one of our factories. The traditional robots really are about repetitive programming and a similar motion multiple times. So this one is basically welding a specific spot. It's taking material, bringing it in, and bringing it to the welder. So that is one type of robot that you see in our factory. You also see automated guided vehicles. These, we've really gotten more and more of these, and what they're doing is doing a continuous loop or a path that they've been programmed to do around the factory to stop, pick up finished orders, bring them to maybe another department where different kinds of locks all get packaged together for a customer's order instead of one lock at a time or one kind shipped at a time. In fact, the way the orders come into us are usually by floor. So the order came into us for this floor with that door having a specific number and needing specific hardware. It was made, so was that hardware, the next door, the next door, the next door, and all of that was packaged together because that may have been how the installers wanted to install it at that time of year. So these automated guided vehicles are rather interesting. See, this one is gonna, we're gonna crash. What do we do? Oh, bummer. They didn't crash, I promise, just the video did, apparently. But they're smart enough to basically know that there's an obstacle coming at them, and they either stop, they put on their noise makers, and or they change direction and then get back on course. And then universal robots. These are really where we're really experimenting. These are robots that can work alongside people without potential for harm. So this robot's going in and pulling out a cylinder, turning it, putting it back in. And so someone could be right alongside it or even reaching in and doing different things, and they won't be harmed. It is kind of lost in space-ish, isn't it? 3D printing. Again, essential. 3D printers are alongside our engineering team. In our engineering, we work in teams. So they get to experiment on the fly, creating a new part, trying to see if it's actually going to fit into the chassis, let's say, of a mortise lock. But 3D printing has really sped up our ability to innovate, because you can test something right away, and we have a test lab to also test its strength and functionality. So mobile and cloud internet, clearly, if you're unsure how disruptive technology could really be looked at, I'm going to show you a couple of pictures that'll really show a very stark, vast difference here. So this was St. Peter's Square in 2005. If you notice, everyone's holding up a digital camera. This is what they're doing now. These are real pictures. I had them verified 3 times. It could be. So, well, it is that way at a concert, actually. If you're way in the back, like me usually, everyone's got their phones up, and that's the glow that you see. So, this whole idea of the mobile internet and being able to take your own pictures and your own video and post them online and, put them to your own cloud storage or put them on Facebook or whatever, this is really changing the way we function, and it's not going away. This is our new world. And one thing I wanted to just quickly show is this, this rate of adoption. So clearly the red line is really the adoption of tablets. And you can include phones really in tablets, or smartphones in tablets. It took 18 years to get to the same level if you were a desktop computer or a laptop computer. So everything is speeding up, and we need to speed up with it. All these things that you see here are all functions that we had individual items to achieve. Now they're all in a phone, if you think about it. We're taking notes, we're taking pictures, we're doing all sorts of things, and we're also putting keys on phones now. So again, we've had to use technology knowing this is the way the market is going, and I'm going to show you a quick video with Starwood Hotels about how they're using keys in phones for their guests.
These days, everything you do is smart. From the way you pay, to the way you go places, to the way you say hello. And now, your travels are smart too. Introducing the new keyless key for your smartphone from Starwood.
So there are Starwood hotels around the world that are testing this technology, and it's going to keep rolling out. So don't stay at your next Starwood, and make sure you bring your smartphone. Automation of knowledge, again, that's really about taking whatever things were done manually and trying to utilize computer technology and basic computer thinking and analysis to give you a result. What we've done here is really make an app to help our customers as well as our sales team go around and actually perform security assessments within buildings. We've done it, of course, quite a lot for K through 12 schools. So this is a typical school layout. All these different openings, the best thing you can do for your school security is let's just make sure everything works the way it's supposed to. That's really essential. And so we'll go around and help assess some of that and decide whether something is broken and needs a new lock, or whether you have a new function or new something that you're protecting. We might recommend a different opportunity or a different product. So we're doing these assessments. We're getting all this information here. Looking at these old doors reminds me of Tomlinson High School or middle school where I used to go. Again, you can pinpoint the exact door. You can go on the app. Again, every door in a building is numbered, believe it or not, and you can keep great records that way. Helps with your school security plans, working with local police in case of emergency, et cetera. So all this is super helpful, and we've been able to automate a lot of this work through the app. Another thing is home automation. We're starting to see more and more ways it's no longer just ADT calling you on the phone to see if you want a security system. Now your security system can do so many more things. It can turn off the lights, it can turn up the heat. It can turn on your TV if you want. How about your TiVo? And one thing that all these technologies have done for us is we've had to work with new partners that we aren't used to working with. So we're working with different outlets to actually sell the product, but we're also working with different kinds of software companies to make sure our locks work with their software. And so here's an example of home control in AT&T's Digital Life platform. And you'll see, if you look carefully at this, you'll see a lock actually functioning in this video.
Hey guys. Hey, glad y'all made
Volume.
it. Sorry we're late. Did you run into traffic?
No,
just had to stop by the house to grab a few things.
You stop by the house?
Uh-huh. All right, whenever you get your stuff, run upstairs, get cleaned up for dinner.
You leave the house in good shape?
Yeah, of course.
Last second field goal.
Yeah, sure you did.
Introducing AT&T Digital Life, personalized home security and automation with limited availability in select markets.
So again, this just sort of shows you how everything is evolving. And to some degree, I would say that this home automation has given new life into the Yale brand, which is known as probably the world's most popular lock in every country. And now, I said I would take a little bit of liberty with renewable energy and energy storage. We kind of look at that just in general as sustainability, and not just what we do in our own facilities, but how we've had to think about what's happening in the market. Basically, almost 50% of new construction today is built to a LEED standard. May not be certified to LEED, but it's built to a LEED standard. And that number keeps rising. So we have to make sure that we have products that can actually meet that need. 39% of all, energy loss comes from building in general. 40% of that energy loss comes from the building envelope. So that means any opening, a window, a door, a skylight within that building. Doors themselves are responsible for 11% of that 40% of leakage. So think of all the air conditioning and all the heating running out the doors. That's money going out your door if you're not selecting the right products. So we've had to really think about that, and we've had to stop thinking about just the door or just the frame or just the lock, and now we've had to think holistically about the opening and how do we certify and test that opening to be energy efficient. So that goes back to code also driving our innovation, and to some degree us trying to lead with pushing that code so that we can be first to market meeting it. So these are all these different open pieces of the opening that help make this an energy efficient opening. This is actually a real opening in Finland, Minnesota. And the Wolfridge Environmental Learning Center basically did a study for us. They replaced one opening in over a year's time, realized that they're saving basically $20,000 in costs, energy costs in that 1 year from that one opening. Or excuse me, if you multiply that times a typical building with 300 openings. So a lot of carbon footprint reduction as well. And then I'm just going to briefly go over this, the EcoFlex technology. So far everything we've shown you, you can kind of physically see. What we've done inside electronic access control locks now is we've changed from solenoids to motors. And we've been able to get a motor to function in this lock, and actually it uses 97% less energy than a solenoid in that lock. So again, if you have access control on many openings, just one opening alone will save $20 a year. So 300 opening facility times a couple of years, that's real money. So we keep trying to innovate and make sure that we're looking at these disruptive technologies and taking advantage of them. And as a result, we've been lucky enough to have a lot of continuous development going on in our organization. We've launched 300 products in the last 3 years. Not bad when you started with a wooden pin lock in 4000 BC. We have about just under 200 products still in the pipeline, but our goal is to have 25% of our sales from new products, and we met that in 2013. So hopefully we'll continue. It's always nice to be recognized for being innovative, and no one in the company was aware that we were even being considered for this, and then the Forbes list came out last year. It was quite shocking, actually. This is what was shocking. Notice who's number 78, and notice who's number 79. Nice lot, exactly. So, the sleepy lock world has woken up. We're very innovative. We're utilizing technologies around us to really be a big catalyst for us. And it's the programming that goes on here at advanced manufacturing centers that really can help supply us with not just the production employees that we need, machinists that we need, but also the engineering and the critical thinking and skills that are required of our R&D teams. That's it. Is that it? Yes?
Yes, I have a question. First of all, before my question, I have a comment. I'm a journalist now. Before I worked for Rotary Express, the trucking company, so I know your overhead doors, and I owe you a lot for those. Those were tough.
Yes, they are.
But my question is, as an international company, and I'm wondering about the Northeast marketplace, specifically here in Bridgeport, but also you have to think about Worcester and Lowell and Springfield and various manufacturing centers that have spiraled outward and now trying to come back. What is your marketing strategy to include centers like that, which are very still populous and very much vibrant in their communities?
In terms of sourcing?
In terms of perhaps making a manufacturing plant, perhaps your marketing strategy in terms of selling to those.
Yeah, we have 21 sales offices around the U.S. And there's a team that covers Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, basically New England, minus New York. So we focus our sales teams in specific geographical regions so they get to know the different buildings and the customers there, and the building types and the ones that are sprouting up. So from a marketing perspective, that's what we're doing. We also have specialists within our sales organization. We have someone who does nothing but focus and call on K through 12 schools. We have someone who does nothing but call on healthcare, and that goes from hospitals all the way down to senior living areas. We have people that call on nothing but universities. You can't be an expert, you can't solve somebody's problems if you don't know their problems and you don't have a rapport with them. So that's from a real marketing and business strategy, that's what we do. Our intention is not to create more manufacturing locations, it's to utilize the ones that we have more. For example, the one in Berlin, Connecticut is just shy of 1 million square feet of manufacturing facility. It was underutilized, with only about 200,000 square feet of it being used by Corbin Russwin. We, for various reasons, we moved the McKinney brand from Pennsylvania up to Berlin to be co-located there. That took up, utilized more of the factory footprint that we already had. The same with Yale. So now bringing Yale and Corbin Russwin and McKinney all together under one roof, we still have excess capacity. Anyone want to rent about 250,000 square feet?
I think that's great. Your answer is tremendous. I just wanted to know if you view this as an opportunity to grow.
We see all of this as an opportunity to grow in general. Our numbers last year at the end of 2013 were equal to our highest number just prior to 2008. So we've bounced back. I'm not sure that we would say that it was all the economy. We'd like to think that we stole a lot of market share because we played smarter. Anything else? Thank you.
Any other questions for Marna? If not, let me ask you all to join me in thanking her for a really fascinating presentation. Whenever I hear about disruptive technologies, I'm always reminded of the story that someone once said of the Pennsylvania Railroad. If in 1920 they had realized they were in the transportation business, not the railroad business, we might be flying on Pennsylvania Railroad Airlines today, but we're not. Well, thank you all for coming. On behalf of the college and on behalf of the foundation, I want to close by thanking Mr. Ratzenberger, who is probably off being interviewed voraciously someplace, and the American Manufacturing Hall of Fame Steering Committee. I know we have Ken here. Dan is probably off supervising the interviews. And all the speakers and sponsors who are supporting this initiative. It's exciting to celebrate the rich heritage and bright future of manufacturing in America. We look forward to seeing you all at the inaugural Hall of Fame induction ceremony on October 7th. Thank you all very much for coming. I understand, I hope this is true, there's a press release near the door on our inductees, as well as additional information on the manufacturing program here at Housatonic Community College. Thank you again for coming.